then we put it into cost savings.
Good evening and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Hartford Common Council. All proper notices were sent. I ask if you would please join me at the Pledge of Allegiance, but let me call it to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jessica, roll call.
The mayor and all alderpersons are present.
Thank you. Fourth item on the agenda tonight is the unanimous consent agenda.
Move for approval?
A motion by Wayne, second by Alderperson Turchi.
Motion by Alderperson Rusniak, seconded by Alderperson Turchi, approving the following items on the unanimous consent agenda. The Common Council minutes of March 10th, 2026.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any final discussions, changes, or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes pass. Fifth item on the agenda is communications. Anything tonight, Jessica? Thank
No.
you. Sixth item on the agenda tonight is appearances and citizen comments. Anyone wishing to appear? Second call, anyone wishing to appear? Final call, anyone wishing to appear? All right, seventh item on the agenda is the mayor's report. I just have one thing tonight. A Native American art exhibit is now on display at the Shower Arts and Activities Center. The works are on loan from the Shotku Arts Center in South Dakota. The display started on March 15th and runs through May 9th. It is open from noon to 5, Monday through Friday, and there is no charge to go and see this. So please stop by and see what's on display. Then we go to item 8 on the agenda, aldermanic requests. President Rusniak?
Yeah, just one item. Anybody going to the Mid-Moraine meeting tomorrow night at Kewaskum? Let's meet behind City Hall at 5:30.
Thanks, Wayne. Alderperson Curley?
The Police and Fire Commission met on March 11th and took the following actions. On the police side, they confirmed the promotion of Officer Corey Whipple to the position of Police Sergeant on or after March 16th. And on the Fire and Rescue side, deferred the possible hiring of 2 full-time and 1 part-time employee until 2027, pending budget approval and possible referendum approval. That's it, Mayor.
Thanks, Dean. Alderperson Waldvogel?
Just a quick word of thanks to the Public Works Department. I had a neighbor who had a couple trees that needed to be taken down in between the sidewalk and the road. And he specifically mentioned to me that working with Tim and the Public Works Department went very smoothly, and he was very, very pleased with all the work and the communication. So just wanted to pass along a word of thanks.
Great. Always good to hear the good stuff. So, super. Alderperson Garza?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderperson Turchi?
Nothing today, Mayor.
Alderperson Webb?
I actually want to echo something that Alderperson Waldvogel said. I wasn't here for the meeting right after the storms when we had the high winds, and there was a very large tree that went down on Grand Avenue, knocked out some power lines, and shocked a bunch of stuff in my house. But Public Works was out there, so was Fire and Police. They were able to put out the fire that was started and help out my neighbors. So just wanted to say a big thanks for all the work that they did.
Great. Thanks, Justin. Alderperson Kohler?
Yeah, this one's going more towards to Steve. I know I have a personal request to make sure that anybody that comes in on Zoom, that we have all speakers working. I was understanding that one of our speakers, or one of our sides of the speakers, is they have a quote and a work order to get it replaced and get it fixed. I think that'll resolve some of the problems that you have, Mayor, and some of Mike, for me to add in comments, as I'm not in all of these meetings in person. However, I do attend 100% on Zoom.
Thanks. Alderperson Savage?
Nothing tonight.
And Alderperson Pekacek?
Echoing DPW and Utilities, great staff, Steve.
a blizzard, and they handled it quickly, and the roads were, done. Just, it was, you could get through, and these are hardy people from 100-degree temperatures to sub-zero weather. Again, thank you for such dedication and service to this community.
Oh, appreciate it. Thanks, Tom. All right, then we go to item 9 on the agenda, public hearing. The first one is an ordinance annexing territory to the city of Hartford, Wisconsin. The tax keys are T6037800Z and T6016100A from the town of Hartford. I declare this hearing open. And reading of the notice. Jacob?
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held at 7 PM or thereafter on March 24th, 2026, in the Common Council Chambers at the lower level of City Hall, 109 North Main Street, by the City of Hartford Common Council to consider the following: a petition to annex property to the City of Hartford. The petition area consists of a portion of tax key number T603780007 and T6016100A, and is described as follows: tax key number T6037800Z and T6016100A. The petition will be zoned R8, Planned Mixed Residential District. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear those persons who wish to express their opinions for or against the requested annexation, rezoning, and official map revision. A map and legal description of the parcels can be viewed at the Department of Planning and Zoning, 262-673-8272 by appointment, 109 North Main Street, Monday through Friday between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. And it was published in the Daily News on March 6, 2026, and March 13, 2026, and 13 notices were sent.
Super. Thanks, Jessica. Then we'll go on to explanation of the hearing by staff. Jacob?
All right, to start off, this annexation was approved, or it wasn't approved, it went in before the Joint Plan Commission with the town of Hartford. They don't make a recommendation or they don't vote on it, but there was no real argument against it from the town side. Then this went in front of the March 9th Plan Commission and was unanimously approved by the Plan Commission. These are the parcels. They're along West State Street. The one parcel is actually split by West State Street, and then it goes up to the north to tax key T6-016100A. Altogether, this is about 58.067 acres of land. The biggest impact is the valuation impact. T6037800Z has a assessed value of $332,000 in 2025. There is a farmstead on that property, which is why it's assessed at that value. But the other portion is only assessed at, so the one to the north is assessed at $5,800. And under state statutes, we have to pay the property taxes to the town over a 5-year period. So for the larger parcel, T6-037800Z, that's $467.82 per year. And then for T6-016100A per year, that comes out to $8.17. This is relatively close to the city of Hartford's current boundaries. It does connect to the, it is part of the, it does touch the boundary of the city. That's why it can annex. But it's within our service, our 20-year service sanitary sewer boundary. It's relatively close to our sanitary sewer service and water service, so that will be connected as this develops. The school service impact, there is a possibility of this being a residential development. Because of that, some of it might be multifamily. We're doing a conservative estimate around 250 new children coming into the school districts. Again, that's not 250 new kindergartners coming in. That's just spread across K through 12, so it's not like there's going to be this overwhelming flush in any one grade. And then EMS services and police services, again, this area is pretty much already in our service area for these two parcels. And then staff is recommending approval of this annexation of these two parcels in the town of Hartford to the city of Watertown, or to the city of Hartford.
All right, thanks, Jacob. And we'll have discussion later if there's any questions for you. So next I will call for appearances 4. Appearances for? Appearances for? Seeing none, we'll go to appearances against. Appearances against. Last call, appearances against. And now we will go to discussion by council. Wayne?
Jacob, to access that land as soon as this gets approved, we talking Western Avenue, we talking Constitution Avenue, or both?
Western, or West State Street is what's gonna be the
State
connecting.
Street, that's
Yep,
it?
Correct.
Not Western?
No, no, if anything, there's a possibility that something would come up from, not Independence, what is the, Innovation Way?
Innovation
Yeah,
Way,
yeah.
right, not Constitution,
Correct.
Innovation Way,
Yep.
right.
Innovation Way, Western Drive, same thing. We knew where you're going.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Justin?
In the joint planning committee meeting notes, it said something about the developer has an offer to purchase the nearby 40 acres. Where is that at in this ecosystem?
That would be the, go here. So hopefully you can see my mouse. So this is the 40-acre parcel right here. That's the HADC parcel that is owned by the city. It's technically not quite 40 acres due to a land swap we did for one of the annexations that's coming at the end of the common council meeting. But it's about 38 acres that they're going to potentially buy from the HADC to develop this as part of the residential development.
And that's the land to the south, just,
Correct, where that
Okay.
11 is right in here, this 40-acre parcel.
okay, thanks.
All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'm going to declare this hearing closed. And would entertain an action on this. Again, this is an ordinance, so if you do want to act on it tonight, we do need to suspend the rules.
For suspension.
Motion by Alderperson Curley to suspend. Do I have a second by Alderperson Turchi?
Motion by Alderperson Curley, seconded by Alderperson Turchi to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1530.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? And this is again regarding suspension of the rules. Seeing none, all those in favor of suspension, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Rules are suspended. I would then entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
I guess I'll go. That's fine.
Alderperson Turchi,
was-
and second by Alderperson Pekacek.
Motion by Alderperson Turchi, seconded by Alderperson Pekacek for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1530.
All right, any final questions or discussion regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ordinance passes. The second hearing tonight is on an ordinance to amend Chapter 52, the official zoning map of the city of Hartford for the rezoning of a parcel from A1 Limited Agricultural District to M2 General Industrial District. I declare this hearing open. And reading of the notice. Jessica?
Please take notice that pursuant to Section 62.23, Paragraph 7 of the Wisconsin State Statutes and Section 52.232 of the City of Hartford Municipal Code, that a public hearing will be held at 7 p.m. or thereafter on March 24th, 2026, in the Common Council Chambers at the lower level of City Hall, 109 North Main Street, by the City of Hartford Common Council, to consider the request of the City of Hartford to rezone 1501 Innovation Way, tax key number 361804-002-015, from A1 Limited Agriculture District to M2 General Industrial. All persons wishing to provide testimony for or against the requested zoning change are invited to be present. Written comments may be submitted to City Clerk Shanna Kralkamp, 109 North Main Street, Hartford, Wisconsin, 53027. A copy of the proposed ordinance and zoning map can be viewed at the Planning and Zoning Department, 109 North Main Street. Monday through Friday between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Phone number 262-673-8272. It was published in the Daily News on March 6, 2026, and March 13, 2026, with 4 notices sent.
Thank you, Jessica. And the third item is an explanation by hearing by staff. Jacob?
All right, 15-1 Innovation Way is a 29-acre parcel of land that is owned by the city. This is the parcel right here. We hold it for the HADC. A developer is possibly looking at developing it into an industrial or an industrial manufacturing facility. So to allow for this type of land use to occur here, we're looking to rezone the parcel from A1 agriculture, which is what occurred during our 2025 rezone, to M2, which is general industrial. This would then allow for that type of industry that's proposing to possibly go out there to develop out there. Again, there's really no issue with this. We're updating our comprehensive plan. This will also create a buffer yard between any residential development to the north with the wastewater treatment plant there to the southwest. You really don't want to be putting residential next to a wastewater treatment plant. You're going to get a lot of complaints. So staff is again recommending approval of the rezone of 1501 Innovation Way from A1 limited agriculture to M2 general industrial.
Super. Thanks, Jacob. All right, next part of the hearing is appearances 4. Anyone wishing to appear 4? Last call, appearances 4. All right, then we will go to appearances against. Second call, appearances against. And last call, appearances against. All right, then we'll move on to discussion by council. Wayne?
Jacob, under the executive summary and under staff comment, it says the rezone will allow the following principal land uses to be developed on 3 different North Pike Lake Drive addresses. What's
Sorry,
that got to do with
should have
this?
been.
Why is that in there?
It's wrong.
Yeah, it's incorrect. That was for the next meeting or the next agenda item. When I
Okay.
transferred it over, it must
Right.
have copied and
But
pasted
it's under
wrong.
your staff comments, so
Yeah.
that's what confused
Yeah.
me. I
Sorry
thought,
about
what's
that.
that doing in there?
I just, accidentally.
Yeah, we're going to
Copy paste.
discuss that in a few minutes, obviously. All right.
Joe?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that I'm happy to see that this parcel of land is being zoned underneath the, more of the industrial opposed to when this was first proposed, they had that as a, more for the residential, when we talked about the HVAC property, building houses. If you guys remember correctly, alongside of that is the Rubicon River. Talking to a lot of the farmers that live out there, that's unplantable property because half the time it's underwater. So I'm happy to see that we're looking at industrial instead of residential so people don't have swimming pools in their basements. So kudos to changing that zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't want a house by a sewage treatment
No.
plant?
No.
Or a swamp.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to close the hearing. And we are to action on the ordinance. Again, this is an ordinance, so if you wish to take action on it tonight, we would have to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend.
Motion by Justin to suspend the rules.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Pekacek.
Motion by Alderperson Webb, seconded by Alderperson Pekacek, to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1532.
Okay, so again, this is for suspension. Any final discussions or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are suspended. Then I will,
A motion to approve.
motion by Alderperson Kohler. Second by Alderperson Garza.
Motion by Alderperson Kohler, seconded by Alderperson Garza for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1532.
All right, any final discussion or questions regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ordinance passes. All right, the next item on the agenda is another public hearing regarding an ordinance to amend Chapter 52, the official zoning map of the City of Hartford for the rezoning of parcels from C1 Conservation District to I1 Institutional District. I declare this hearing open. And reading of the notice. Jessica?
Please take notice that pursuant to Section 62.23, Paragraph 7 of the Wisconsin State Statute and Section 52.232 of the City of Hartford Municipal Code, that a public hearing will be held at 7 p.m. or thereafter on March 24th, 2026, in the Common Council Chambers at the lower level of City Hall, 109 North Main Street, by the City of Hartford Common Council to consider the request of the RMC Homes V111 LLC, Rob Crotty, registered agent, to rezone 278 North Pike Lake Drive, tax key number 36-2201-008-998, 264 North Pike Lake Drive, tax key number 36-2201-008-997, and 234 North Pike Lake Drive, tax key number 36-2201-008-061, from C1 Conservation District to I1 Institutional District. All persons wishing to provide testimony for or against the requested zoning change are invited to be present. Written comments may be submitted to City Clerk Shanna Kralkamp, 109 North Main Street, City of Hartford, Hartford, Wisconsin, 53027. A copy of the proposed ordinance and zoning map can be viewed at the Planning and Zoning Department, 109 North Main Street, Monday through Friday between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Phone number 262-673-8272. It was published in the Daily News on March 6th, 2026, and March 13th, 2026, with 38 notices sent.
Thank you, Jessica. Item 3 on this is the explanation of the hearing by staff. Jacob?
All right, this is North Pike Lake Drive. There are 3 parcels here. One parcel, 278 North Pike, is a very small sliver parcel. At one point, this was supposed to be connected to the assisted, or not the assisted, but the age-restricted condo complex to the north. They were supposed to be connected, and that was supposed to kind of serve as the foray or the breezeway between the two developments. But that did not occur back when this was being developed in the mid-2000s. This property had been for sale for quite a long time. During our rezoning process, this whole area was rezoned to C1. We're also going to be coming up to rezone the age-restricted condos as well as the dental office to the south of these 3 parcels. But currently they're zoned C1. In your packet, there was a letter to the property owner in 2016 that this property was rezoned to institutional. So we're just bringing it back to the original zoning district prior to our 2025 rezone. Again, this was approved by the Plan Commission unanimously March 9th. There are a list of the type of land uses that are allowed. The developer themselves are looking to do an assisted living center, which is by right type of land use, so they could develop that out. So that is what we have here. There are concerns about the wetlands and stuff like that. They did perform a wetland delineation in late last year. They hired an assured wetland delineator to do this so that it doesn't need as extensive DNR review. So again, they can't really build in the wetlands. You can build in wetlands. It's very expensive. It's not really worth it. So this area will not be, the area that's in purple will not be developed. So that is the wetlands. And then again, understand there are wildlife concerns. Again, the wetlands will be preserved. But when it comes to animals or plant life and stuff like that, wild animals are vested by the state. It's their job to protect animals. It's not the city's job to protect animals. And then when it comes to non-game species, it doesn't impact development. It specifically calls out the fact that it should never impede or hinder or prohibit the utilization of land for construction, operation, or maintenance of facilities. And then also, if there is further concerns, anyone can petition the DNR for natural heritage inventory of information. Again, they get charged for that, and they also sometimes have to be they have to have a certain level of education to be given that data by the DNR. So there are options for anyone that truly believes there are wildlife concerns, but for the most part, it's vested on the state to take care of or be concerned about animals or wildlife on a property. So again, staff is recommending approval of the rezone from C1 to institutional I1 on these 3 parcels.
All right, thanks, Jacob. All right, next part of this hearing is appearances 4. Second call, appearances 4. Final call, appearances 4. All right, next is appearances against. I do have a letter from a citizen who couldn't attend tonight, and she wished to be a part of the appearances against, so I'm just going to read this letter. Dear City Clerk, we are opposed to any zone changes on 278 North Pike Lake Drive, Washington County, 264 North Pike Lake Drive, Washington County, and 234 North Pike Lake Drive, Washington County. We own a condominium located at 230 Hilldale Drive, very close to the lots and outlot in question. We feel building on these properties will cause more water leakage to the Ridgedale condominiums, especially the 36-plus parking and storage units located on the lower level. We are also concerned with the birds and animals seeking refuge in the open areas they call home. Let's not disrupt the habitat. Thank you, Arthur and Darlene Felber, number 1110 Hilldale Drive in Hartford. With that, I will continue with appearances against. Anyone wishing to appear against? Final call, appearances against. All right, then we move on to discussion by council. Any questions for Jacob? Jacob, I just would like to add, thank you for that added information. I think it's helpful not only for this particular situation, but in the future, you know, when these things arise. So thanks for adding that in.
No problem.
All right, seeing none, I will close the hearing. And eighth part of this would be action by the council. Again, this is an ordinance. If you do wish to act on it, we would have to suspend the rules.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules by Alderperson Garza.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Curley.
Motion by Alderperson Garza, seconded by Alderperson Curley to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1533.
All right, again, this is a motion to suspend the rules. Any final questions or comments regarding that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, the rules are suspended. Then I would entertain a motion for the ordinance. Motion by Alderperson Curley, second by Alderperson Pekacek.
Motion by Alderperson Curley, seconded by Alderperson Pekacek for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1533.
All right, any final discussion or questions regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ordinance passes. We move to item 11 on the agenda, resolutions and possible action thereon. Resolution number 3763, a resolution approving the final plat of Copper Trail Subdivision Phase 2. Jacob?
All right, so we are looking to approve Phase 2 along North Main Street of the Copper Trails subdivision. The preliminary plat was approved by the Plan Commission on September 9th, 2024, and Common Council on September 24th, 2024. Phase 1 final plat was at the July 12th, 2025 meeting, and was approved by the Common Council there. And then this appeared before the March 9th, 2026 Plan Commission and was unanimously approved there. They're looking to, and Phase 1 consisted of 30 single-family family lots. Phase 2 consists of 28 single-family lots. The average dwelling units per acre is 1.46 units. The average size of a lot is 10,934 square feet, or a quarter acre, with the largest being 18,950 58 with a acreage of 0.44 acres, and then the minimum lot size being 8,401 feet, which is a 0.19 acre lot. There was comments from the staff. We recommend that they are included as part of the resolution to approve it as a part of the approval process. Comments from the fire department, stormwater, engineering department, and as well as our staff shall be included. So again, staff is recommending approval of the Copper Trail subdivision, Phase 2 final plat, located along North Main Street with the inclusion of staff comments.
Thanks, Jacob. All right, any comments or questions from council?
I drove out there Sunday morning. There's about 7 or 8 homes under construction. 4 homes have been sold. They have sold sign. They're not even half completed. So that's a good sign.
It is.
The sold sign?
Sold, no. 4
Sorry.
out of 7? That's a
Sorry,
good sign.
couldn't resist, Wayne. All right, anyone else? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Alderperson Turchi, second by Alderperson Savage.
Motion by Alderperson Turchi, seconded by Alderperson Savage for the adoption of proposed resolution number 3763.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any final comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. The next resolution on tonight's agenda is Resolution Number 3764, a resolution approving the appointments of city staff as deputy property maintenance code officials under Section 29.02 of the City of Hartford Municipal Code. Jacob?
All right, so as you're all aware, May 13, 2025, we adopted or recreated Chapter 29, which is our property maintenance code. We have increased our emphasis on property maintenance throughout the city of Hartford. As part of that, under Section 2902B, the municipal code states deputies, the city planner, and/or zoning administrator shall have the authority to appoint 1 or more deputies and shall specify in writing the powers delegated to the deputies. So this resolution is the written authorization giving them their authority and delegating who can do that. So we're looking at our building inspector, who currently is Mike Hedrick. Our administrative assistant is Jane Runge. The Director of Public Works, Tim Pisteau, he does a lot of the weed stuff because they have the staff that can go out there and cut it. You're not going to see me out there with a lawnmower cutting your grass for you if you let it grow above 8 inches. So Tim's got the crew to do that. And then also, we are now working with the police department. We have 1 patrol officer assigned to property maintenance by the chief of police. Currently, that is Officer Andrew Barr. That can change over time. That's why we include the language for assigned by the chief of police. So again, this will help us enforce the code more efficiently. It's springtime. We are getting a lot of complaints right now. Everything's starting to pop up, and people are out there walking around, so we're seeing a lot of complaints. So again, we're recommending approval of appointing city staff as listed above as deputy property maintenance officials, and it also delegates their authority in that resolution.
Great, thanks, Jacob. I know it's not an easy job, so obviously keep up what we can do on this, and I think this is a step in the right direction. So.
Thank you.
All right, any discussion or comments from council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderperson Pekacek,
Second.
second by Alderperson Garza.
Motion by Alderperson Pekacek, seconded by Alderperson Garza for the adoption of proposed resolution number 3764.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any final discussion or questions?
Yeah, I have one question.
Justin?
Sorry. Asking for homework at the end of the class. In the code, it says the city planner or zoning administrator shall have the authority to appoint 1 or more deputies. Why does the common council have to do that? Like, if the code gives you the authority to deputize somebody, why do we have to approve it?
I wanted more teeth on it, so if it does go to court or to trial, that it's just not myself, but you have the gravitas of the common council behind that resolution, granting them authority as well.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Justin? All right. So we do have a motion and a second. Any final discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution passes. The third resolution under the agenda here is Resolution Number 3765, a resolution approving the Bud Street Reconstruction Project Public Construction Contract. Is it Ryan or
Yep.
Brian? He's Ryan.
For those who don't know me, I'm Ryan Wickesberg. I'm the newly hired civil engineer with the City of Hartford Engineering Department. I started back in June, and I'm here on behalf of Chris Walter, the city engineer, tonight. So the resolution that I'm proposing is for the approval of the contract for the reconstruction of Bud Street. This is the first of two capital roadway reconstruction projects for 2026. As shown on the map on the screen, this project goes from Grant Street to West State Street and involves approximately 1,200 feet of roadway replacement, including new pavement, curb and gutter, concrete sidewalk, storm sewer, water main, and sanitary sewer laterals. The bids for this project were open on March 11th. We only received one bid, which was submitted by Lalonde Contractors out of Waukesha for just under $783,000. Our engineering estimate was $844,000, so the bid came under our estimate. And following staff evaluation of the bid, we do recommend approval of this contract to Lalonde Contractors for the amount of $782,989.36. And with that, I can take any questions.
Just under the Public Works Committee said that this was the only bid that was received, but other people were intending to bid?
Yes.
Could you expand on that again?
Yes, we received 8 people that were pulling the plans for the contract and looked at them as primary contractors. They all had different reasons. We reached out to a few of them as to why they did not submit bids, and each one had an individual reason as to why they didn't feel they could submit a bid for this project.
I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't just this one company that we were looking for.
We were also told that the day of the bidding was also during the week of the construction contractors conference held in Las Vegas. So we might have been
That might have
short of
affected
that
it.
one.
Good deal. Wayne?
The good news is we budgeted 844. The bid came in at 782, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, if we had come back and the bid was higher, we obviously would have gone back out to bid at a different time and see if we can't get a different result.
Justin?
I'm just curious, like, what were the reasons why, like, you mentioned they had various different reasons why they didn't submit a bid. What were those?
So as Steve mentioned, there was the contractors conference that was going on. Another contractor had said that they just didn't have the capacity right now. So they looked at the project and evaluated whether or not their staff were able to take on this project and decided they were ultimately unable to do so.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Justin.
And we've used Lalonde before, correct?
Yes, they were a part of the Jackson Street Alley project last year.
Okay.
I spoke with staff about their work on that project, and they were happy with and excited to work with them again.
Very good. Thank you.
Again, a long overdue project. Bud Street's been in rough shape for a long time.
Yes,
So.
terrible.
All right, so we have a resolution here. I would entertain a motion. Alderperson Curley, second by Alderperson Webb.
Motion by Alderperson Curley, seconded by Alderperson Webb for the adoption of proposed resolution number 3765.
All right, thanks again for stepping in. Appreciate that.
Oh, don't we have to suspend?
This is a resolution, not an ordinance.
Oh, I'm reading ahead of you.
All right?
Yep.
Anything further? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution passes. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 1531, an ordinance annexing territory to the city of Hartford, Wisconsin, tax key number T6-038000A from the town of Hartford. Jacob?
All right, this is one of the best kind of annexations. It's a city annexation, a city property, so there's no public hearing, really no notice. We didn't have to do a joint plan review with the town of Hartford. So again, there's this little parcel here. Here's a better map. It's parcel A on this. We did a little bit of a land swap with the Rettlers to the north to allow for development of the Innovation Way Western Drive extension. It had to take a little bump because there are wetlands there, but this will This annexation will allow us to put this into the city, and really there's no impact because the city owned it, it was $0, so no fiscal impact, no one's gonna live on it. The utilities will run underneath it, obviously, but again, it's a pretty easy annexation. So staff is recommending approval of the annexation of territory owned by the city of Hartford in the town of Hartford back to the city.
So just a bit of housekeeping here, huh?
Correct.
Good deal. All right, any discussion or comments? Again, this is an ordinance, so if you do want to enact on this tonight, we do have to suspend the rules.
Move to suspend.
Motion to suspend by Alderperson Rusniak, second by Alderperson Garza.
Motion by Alderperson Rusniak, seconded by Alderperson Garza, to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1531.
All right, again, this is to suspend. Any final discussions or questions regarding that? Seeing none, all those in favor of suspension, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are suspended. Then I would entertain a motion on the ordinance.
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson Waldvogel, second by Alderperson Pekacek.
Motion by Alderperson Waldvogel, seconded by Alderperson Pekacek, for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1531.
All right, any final discussion or questions regarding the ordinance? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ordinance passes. And we go to item 13 on the agenda. In the city administrator's report, item A, discussion of fourth quarter general fund unaudited results. Steve?
Again, just a reminder, every quarter we come back and talk to you about how we're doing for that quarter, the prior quarter. These numbers come to us unaudited at this time. So again, you will see a final number when the audit comes through, normally in July. At the end of the fourth quarter, the city was at 100.26% of the total general fund revenues at the end of the prior year. This is in line with the previous 8 years, which again range from 97 to 101%. Total general fund expenses for the prior year, fourth quarter, was at 102.88% of the budget. This is higher than normal and the highest expense level we've had in the prior 9 years. In total, the city budgeted to pull $103,803 from fund balance for normal operations, which is primarily retirement payouts. However, with the issuance of the actual expenses, we ended up pulling $361,715 from the fund balance. Again, these are unaudited numbers. That number could still switch. Most of the major overages and expenses had to do with EMS and fire. With this being the first year, we have combined the general fund with the fire and EMS budget. We had over $400,000 in costs regarding that switch. So again, to remind you, the fire department EMS was its own fund. It was its own business. That fund, that business was again diminishing its overall value. Because again, our costs were increasing, revenues were not keeping pace. And so again, it was decided by or recommended by our auditor that it makes no sense to keep it as its own fund. So you might as well envelope it into the general fund. And so in doing so, along with the services comes the debt that was already accrued by that. So that was one of the major reasons that, again, by closing out the EMS account, it brought along an additional $332,000 in debt. So again, that has been in 2026. You will not see that issue as, again, the fire and EMS is now solely on the Fund 100 or the general fund. This is only the second time in 10 years that we have not had a surplus of actual versus budgeted. Understanding where these issues occurred in 25, again, all of our staff will be able to identify sooner this year where some issues might occur as we move forward. Any questions on that? Again, this is for informational purposes only.
Wayne?
Can you explain $207,000 bad debt expenses due to switching billing companies? What's that
Yeah,
all about?
so when we switched billing companies for fire and EMS, there was this lag basically in billing. And so a lot of that's going to come probably in the first quarter of this year. But because of that, it was going to be missed in 2025, excuse me, and will be seen in 2026.
Okay, so we didn't lose 207,000.
We hope to get as much of it as possible. As you know, we don't collect 100% of all past due on ambulance and fire, primarily ambulance. But again, we hope to recoup that all in the first quarter of this year.
All right, thank you.
Although, as Steve mentioned, it does go against the 25
Sure,
budget.
yep, yes, it does.
$332,000 for closing out the EMS account. What the hell, what kind of paperwork backs this up, Steve?
I'm sorry, what?
Well, what is it? I mean,
Yeah, so again.
and is there paperwork to support these figures?
Yeah, so again, what the situation was is that the fire EMS, the EMS primarily budget, had a deficit. And thus the reason that if you keep it as its own fund, your fund balance was going to pay for it anyways. So that's the reason that we took that, put it into the general fund, closed out all the accounts, but had to pay off the past debt.
Okay, that, the other one, the bad debt expenses due to switching billing company. Is there any way we can charge back the areas or the townships that we contract with for EMF services if those bad debts are incurred in those townships?
No.
No, it's not, you can't, I mean, first of all, we go after every one of them, so no matter where they are. Second of all, no, we can't just go after some, but not all. So we may recover all of them, we don't know. But I mean, the statistically, townships are not where we have non-paid bills. Said nicely.
All right.
Any other questions? Is this just a report? We don't have to,
This is just, again, an informational report. You will see the final numbers come out when we do the audit.
and that's scheduled for when?
Normally July, August. We actually have our auditors are in the building starting next week for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Well, Wayne was first, I think, right? No? I mean,
That lady that was in here, and she was an auditor in, was it August or September last year?
Yep.
Was painted a very rosy picture of how good our books looked.
Yep.
And all of this was out there at the same time? She didn't catch any of this?
No, I mean, what she was talking about was 2024. This is 2025.
Again, don't you have any kind of mechanisms built into these various, I guess they're all accounting functions that give you some sort of a heads up when you're looking at some of these sizable figures as they're accumulating during the year?
Well, as you know, as you saw the third quarter numbers, these numbers did not appear yet. And the closing out of the account, we wouldn't have done until the fourth quarter anyways.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm just going to have to jump on Dean's tails. And, you know, we have the same auditor come in every year. And for her to come in 1 year and to say, well, this doesn't make sense because you're going to go negative, we should just turn around and move it. I call BS on it. We've seen it happen. She's had to see the deterioration of what's going on and the direction it's going, and to move it all into the general fund wasn't just an overnight, as a blip type of thing. This is going to go right into the next agenda item, but, you know, I'm with you, Dean. These numbers should have been seen a long time ago. She sits up here, Wayne, how many years? I've been on for 13 years, Everything looks rosy. We got 15 minutes. She talks 100 miles an hour. Granted, we're part-timers up here, but you know what? We're relying on the truth to be told to us at the time it's happening, and not when all of a sudden, as it said in the newspaper on the next agenda item, that it's all of a sudden it's just a big what do they call it, a perfect storm. No, it's not a perfect storm. We've seen this stuff happen. There had to have been indicators. So I'm saying I would, as a council member, I would seriously consider our auditor to be switched off with somebody brand new that can look at our books and be honest with us. And I'm done with that. Thank you.
I might just add, if she is going to still be our auditor, to have her address the subject. It wouldn't hurt to ask. Tom?
I just had a quick question. With the closing of the EMS account, the $332,000 for '25, we're not going to see a number like that in '26. Is that correct?
No, because, I mean, I don't know what else how else I can give you an example of it. But, I mean, when the fire EMS was taking losses throughout the last several years, it's a very unusual business, that model that it has, because it's based on call volume and the amount of people that actually, and the amount that you get per call. EMS dramatically can shift from high to low, because if all we have on a call volume is Medicare patients, and if you're not familiar with the fact, if you don't collect nearly even half of your Medicare costs. However, one year you might have a lot of fully insured accounts. So that account, and you won't see it in this next presentation, but can go up and down. And then also if you have capital purchases. So ambulances, over the last 10 years that I've been here, sometimes an ambulance or a refurbishing of ambulance was a capital cost that account paid for, that business in essence paid for. So with a couple of capital items added on to that, not being put into your debt budget, it didn't take long for that to happen.
Then my other question is, speaking of your ambulances, the capital refurbishing of old ambulances, more than one, $243,000 to refurbish an ambulance? Or is that multiple pieces of equipment?
I don't know if Tony is still here. Yep. Just one.
Just one?
Yes. Yep. Ambulances cost about $550, am I correct?
Brand new?
Brand new.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Alderperson Wellvogel?
I just want to add a comment, kind of reiterating what Steve said. And last year was my first year seeing our auditor, but having worked in public accounting early in my career and understanding how public accounting and auditing work, kind of to Steve's point, our engagement at the scope of that audit was to review 2024. We don't necessarily engage them or hire them to do a forecast or a future presentation. So it very well could be that, in their opinion, looking at 2024, things were sound. So I'm not defending or saying one way or the other what I think of our audit firm, but just kind of giving you a behind the scenes of how that works from a public accountant's perspective.
Maybe we could hire you.
Well, we appreciate the perspective, Chad. Thank you.
And
Tom?
I'm sorry, one more question. Steve, are there any triggers as you go through the budget year saying, this is hitting, or the red flags pop up for you and go, we better, not necessarily approve more money, or we better address this as we move forward?
Yeah, so, I mean, every quarter, as you know, first of all, every department head is instructed to review their accounts regularly, like once a week, to see if anything out of the ordinary has occurred. Then likewise, quarterly, the finance director will send the reports out to all department heads, highlighting any areas in which they are dramatically over budget already, maybe in the first, second, third quarter. So they are made aware of it. Again, this is the first time second time in 10 years that I've been here that we've had actually to pull additional funding. But again, a couple of issues that came up. The fire was a big deal of taking on the additional debt of that fire department.
Anyone else?
Thank you again for explaining. Again,
Sure.
being new on the council, I'm learning, but again, I have probably not more questions coming.
And during the quarterly reports, when I give those reports, if you have any questions on those, I try to spell out why they're over, under, why, what are the key indicators, what are the red flags that we're looking at. I normally do point that out in that report, so.
And again, this is just a discussion.
There's no
topic.
action on that one.
Correct.
The next item on the agenda, I also want to just reverb that. We are actually not looking for an action item on it. This is for informational purposes. You actually do not vote on this item.
Well, let's move right on to that item then. Item B under the city administrator's report, discussion and consideration of proceeding to go to referendum in August 2026 to exceed the levy limit. Steve?
So again, what we're going to talk about tonight is kind of
Steve, hang on. Go ahead.
So it's a discussion and consideration?
there is no, he's just
So
reading
should
it
I-
out.
Well, okay.
Words. There is no discussion tonight.
There's no consideration tonight.
There's no consideration, I'm sorry.
There you go. Thank you.
All right, just want to clarify.
I'm
Okay.
betting there will be some discussion.
So this goes back to last September when nearly all of you, we sat down and talked about the financial situation in which the city was finding itself as we entered the 2026 budget. Again, at that time, I'll recap or remind you of how that was going. We saw ourselves with about $1.2 million budget shortfall. There was several reasons for that. General operational was the major reason for it. And we said we need to do something, we need to move forward. And so my discussions with the mayor, Dennis, at the time, was we would look at trying to reduce our overall expenditures for 2026 and then find what's left to possibly fill with a temporary solution to get us into 2026. And at that time, we said, in 2027, we'll have to take a look at what other options are available. So I'm going to go through a very high level. We're not going to go into specifics on numbers at this time, and I'll explain the steps moving forward as we move on over the next couple months. So again, as we talked about 6 months ago, 7 months ago as it was, again, the city was finding itself with a financial cliff. Net new construction was the lowest in 2024, which was represented in 25 when you do 26's budget, than we've had since 2008. Again, net new construction is by which we decide or which we're allowed to raise levy, okay? That big number at the top, 8 million something, okay? So that number at that time was 1.3%. Again, the lowest we've had since 2008. We have increasing costs to maintain services. We'll talk more about that. Also need to invest in improved fire EMS public safety service, as you heard tonight from Chief Burgard regarding the need to finish off our plan regarding fire and EMS. Funding options will be talked about tonight, including referendum, but again, nothing to be approved tonight, and then we'll talk about what's next. So where we're at, again, an emerging financial cliff. I will skip the next line. The city of Hartford faces significant financial challenges as we move forward. Rising costs to maintain services and declining revenue sources result in a projected budget gap, not only in '26, but as we move forward for '27 and beyond. This emerging financial cliff creates challenges for the city's long-term financial sustainability and reduces the city's financial flexibility. As I mentioned before, the net new construction in 2024, which was represented in 2026, was the lowest we've had since 2008. You see, the total amount that we were able to increase in 2026 was a mere $71,000. I will remind you that our operational costs on an annual basis can go up easily $500,000 a year. So $500,000 in new expenses, additional expenses, but our ability to rise the levy by only $71,772. Future pressures, we know that this existing gap is not going to go away in 1 year. We have, again, last year we were able to leverage temporary funds out of a fund balance for insurance, not health insurance, but out of other insurance, and for a temporary solution to get us to where we are today. Looking ahead, again, the gaps continue to grow. Inflation, we are not immune to inflation. And increased operating costs mean more funding is needed to simply maintain existing services as we have them today. Decreased revenues will make it more difficult to meet current needs, and Hartford has a need to invest in fire and EMS service improvements in the future based on call volume. So the declining revenues, increasing pressures, non-tax revenue streams are declining. Non-tax revenues, remember the difference. Your tax is basically the difference between expenditures and non-tax revenues. So non-tax revenues, fees, fines, forfeitures, okay? And any income that we get from the state shared revenue, transportation aids, grants that we might get to offset some costs, those are non-tax revenues. Currently, we're at about a 1.1% increase annually on non-tax revenues. However, our expenses are have been increasing by about a 1.3. So just those alone. Now, when I say the expenses do not include increases in health insurance and increases in in raises, in giving any raises at all. One of the revenues that have been declining are pilot payments, payment in lieu of taxes. It's an acronym. That has shrunk in 2026 and will continue to shrink by 20,000 more per year up through 2031. Again, that lost itself is up to $500,000. Health insurance, another major issue for us and everyone. Our health insurance increases are somewhere between 15 and 24%. Understand that's a dramatic amount of money for our health insurance cost increases. That is based on several things. First of all, health care has dramatically gone up in price. And if any of you have health insurance or are paying a part of health insurance, you know that to be the case. And so all these things are happening and causing our health insurance to, again, be in a bad shape. Fund balance that we had for health insurance has diminished dramatically over the last 5 years. We were at $2.8 million. We are now down to zero. We are basically having to pay about $500,000 annually out of this fund balance. Again, this is not general fund balance. This is just the health insurance fund balance. But that has been going down about $500,000 a year just to balance the budget and stay under levy limits. And the last final thing, public safety improvements necessary in investing in fire and EMS. And again, based on call volume increasing by 20% since 2021, the vast majority of emergency calls for service require emergency medical, so it's EMS, it's not fire. We are looking at 2.5 additional paramedics. We talked tonight of 2, so that number will be going down. Firefighters paramedics, firefighters need to help ensure that first responders are available whenever there is an emergency, both for the first and second call. And finally, a part of the 10-year plan, and that which was approved in the 2026 budget was the construction of a new firehouse, a second firehouse located along Highway K and Shower Drive extension. So how do we get through this moving forward? And here's the next steps. First of all, we looked in 2026. I said that the shortfall we had in going to 2026 was touching $1 million. What we needed to do is, first of all, we looked at switching our health insurance plan to a UMR product called Surest. That Surest plan, which has been used by other communities nearby and throughout the state, has shown to remove some of our costs and reduce some of our costs to the tune of about $250,000. Along with that, we required the staff for the first time to make a 3% premium contribution for active employees. As you know, this is the first time we've ever asked staff to do that. I will also make this comment that when we do a compensation study for our staff, it is based on a total compensation study. So that's wages and benefits together. So we take into consideration the differences of our benefits compared to the comparables and look at that along with wages. So the concept of, well, let's just charge more for health insurance, then again, we're throwing our total compensation plan in a loop because what we pay is not exactly what everybody else pays. We pay less, but it's based on the fact our benefits are better. So if we reduce the benefits, then the pay have to be addressed. Increasing revenues. So there's many different ways in which different communities are looking at increasing revenues. We are not alone in this. Many communities throughout the state of Wisconsin are dealing with this exact same thing. As the chief was talking about, this is why all the communities in Washington County are looking at a solution to their EMS and fire system problems. So Hartford and all other Wisconsin communities have limited funding options with levy limits. By the way, there is a bill right now at the state level to look at removing public safety expenses off the levy limit worksheet. You may have seen this. The League of Wisconsin Municipalities, which you all receive their emails on a weekly or almost daily basis, they were originally for the idea, the proposal, which would remove fire, police, EMS off the levy limit worksheet. However, because of what has been all added to that bill, to water it down, they have now gone against the bill as it is in its current form. But as I said, everyone's going through this. Some existing options that different communities are looking at is a wheel tax, a vehicle registration fee, a fee on an annual Wisconsin DOT registration. Communities have started doing that, have stopped doing it, other people are taking it on. It all depends upon what you're going to use it for. Garbage collection fees. I'm just going down a couple examples. Right now, our recyclables are on our monthly utility bills. Hopefully you recognize that. But garbage is not. That is another area in which we might be able to move that. And the reason being is that it might be an idea is because the fact of our contract, because we contract outside of it's not an in-house service, the contract automatically goes up 2 to 3 to 4% on an annual basis. Don't get me wrong, they have been very good to us. And the company's doing the very best it can to keep their costs down. But as gas prices go up and everything else, again, that might be something that we look to move to a monthly fee, just like recycling. Other things that other communities are looking at is increasing park fees or green fees, they call it. So if they have a park fee existing, a parking fee like the county does, These are all just ideas. They're not presented for your consideration tonight. Again, we're just saying that everyone is looking at every option possible. There is one also option that was out there that EMS should be a fee and not a tax. The village of Pewaukee was the last one to attempt that, and they have now been enshrined in a 2-year legal battle on this issue that still has to be decided yet. So every community is trying to figure out how to deal with these situations of reducing revenues. The last one and final one is the operational referendum. Again, you are not voting on this tonight. We're simply just saying this is another option. In addition to continued belt tightening, taking a look between now and May, where can we possibly cut? Where can we possibly find savings? Outsourcing, whatever. We are looking at every option possible. Minor adjustments to possibly fees, moving some fees to monthly. Again, everything is on the table. Wisconsin municipalities often turn to referendums because by state law, for you to increase your levy, your overall tax, more than the levy limit, you have to go to referendum. That is a local municipality's situation. And in that situation, again, if we are going to exceed the levy limit, we would have to go to referendum. We are setting ourselves up that if that's the choice we make, we would go to referendum in August, if that's the decision we make. Again, the communications would be coming out shortly regarding this after the council votes it in to move it forward with that in the month of May. Again, we're not alone. In fall of '24, there's 23 municipalities going to referendum, 15 for operations. In spring of 2025, 18 municipalities went to referendum, 13 for operations. I need to update this slide also because in fall, there was an additional, I think, 25 communities going to referendum, also for most of them for operations. Operations can be public safety, but they're not. What it means by saying operations is that it's not for capital purchases, a new building, a new city hall, that kind of thing. So moving forward, we are looking to move forward. The staff is looking to move forward. We continue to explore how the city might save on costs, reduce our overall expenditures, increase revenues, and bring back to you options for you to look at and vote on at that time. If we do decide to go to referendum, we will have options regarding where your comfort level is moving forward on that. Because again, we can look at a one-year solution and do this every year, although I don't have enough hair on my head to pull out yet to do this on an annual basis. But looking at more of a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year solution or beyond. Any questions?
Joe?
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. I'm sorry that I guess everybody was kind of misguided on what was expected from us as a council. But a couple of things I will say, because I know several of us were approached by the press wanting to know information prior. I personally told the press to come here. I tell people to come in and listen. I had people calling me concerned. I'm a little disappointed. I hope May we have a bigger turnout, especially when you start talking about referendums. Because if you guys remember the last one that got pushed through in the school committee, everybody had passed it, and then we got the phone calls for the $500,000 or the 50,000. Was it? Yeah.
12%.
But yeah, the 12% increase on $500 on our tax bill. Mm-hmm. Craziness, And I'm looking, at a council. I'm glad you guys are bringing that up. I'm glad you guys are asking us, and we did go through. I mean, I have the document that we sat through several months ago. I think it was in September. Again, some of the things we brought up tonight was talked about in here, But what I want to say is, I'm glad you didn't use a perfect storm because it was wonderfully and eloquently put through, Dennis, on the Insider this morning. Read through that myself, very similar, so thank you so much, very similar, and it goes very much in conjunction with what was been presented here. So if anybody missed this, that's on our I'm sure we have a lot of people watching. Go out to the internet, pull up the Insider, you're gonna see that, the idea. I tell you one thing, we better find something better than a referendum to go to. I feel as a council, I feel there is a lot more options that have not been turned over. There's a lot more that we have to do. We talk about, and I appreciate, Chad on telling us how public auditing works. But again, I get you're looking at 1 year, but you see a trend. You've talked about a trend. You talk about where it's went in the thing for up to 2026 in our income levels or what we're looking at. If you guys remember correctly, that's all, mostly the post COVID time. And if you look at it, I want to call it some economists call it pre-recession. Some people might call it recession in 2023, 2024. A lot of companies have closed, a lot of companies have sold, and we're still kind of in that situation economically. As a businessman, I could tell you firsthand, I've had several conversations just today on what's going to happen, where things are going. One thing I will say, and one thing I can say is I understand that our income has gone down, so has everybody else's. But if you guys look and you drive around and you look at the number of subdivisions that are being built. We passed one of them just now in today's call. You look at the ones up there off of K. You look at what we're looking at possibly doing out here. Guys, we're in a slump, but so is the world right now. So you can't judge, and and you can't turn around and they think this is where it's doom and gloom, and this is a perfect storm. It's not a perfect storm. Are we on an edge? They talk about the cliff. I don't necessarily think we're on the cliff. We may be walking on a hill, but I don't necessarily the cliff that we got to jump off and we're going to see the end is right in front of us. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of things we have to look at and we have to consider. I will say that and I said it earlier, we are part-time. We can't know everything. We do anticipate, we do hope that everything is presented to us in the time that we have to look through it. And it's our responsibility, as well as the entire listening community, every one of our constituents in every one of our districts, is to understand and to learn what's happening, what's being asked, and where things are going. We don't want a repeat of the school committee going through a referendum and then we hear about it, right? Well, we didn't know that was going to happen. They told you it was going to happen, right? People's got to educate themselves. And I know we talked about the fire and rescue. There's one thing that has not been turned up, and there's one thing that I'd like to see by May is what would it take to turn around, and you talked about outsourcing, what to outsource the EMT, outsource your ambulance service. Only reason I say I would like to see what that cost is Slinger did it. They kept their fire, they kept their rescue. It was life something or another.
Lifestar.
Lifestar that's in there. Right. They turn around, from my understanding, they're paying rent. They're paying for their own equipment. They do the billing, they do the collecting, and the city gets a stipend on every call that's being made. If the numbers are going up, you guys are looking for a revenue, this might be it. And our EMT, certified EMT, I can tell you right now, they are also firefighters. I understand that. They're certified both ways. If they did something like that and they went with a full 24-hour EMT, which they would be able to offer us, I'm sure a lot of our EMTs would probably be getting full-time jobs. Instead of us doing the full-time jobs, they can do that through this business and still do what they love and what their callings for in there. We look and we talk about, and I know the referendum isn't about a capital, growth, but I tell you right now, part of it comes down to a building that, yes, we may have passed the ideas and stuff. We're waiting for the finals and all this other thing. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar firehouse that we're looking at putting out off the K that, first of all, is coming over budget. Second of all, when it was first proposed to this group, it was proposed to us as that was going to be an annex, calling out in that little area. Now we're turning around, and that's going to be the major building, and then we're looking at, well, this one down here will be our annex. Then we got other property we'll probably just give away or do something with it to build it. We're spending money, and this is where a lot of this, and it's right in this form here on the head count that they're looking at doing over the next couple of years that we held off on. Thank gosh we held off on them. Guys, there's other opportunities. I'll tell you one thing, and I do a little bit more than my 25% research and wait for you guys to tell us. I have canvassed some of the firefighters. I have canvassed some of these people about their thoughts of this firehouse. And I'll tell you right now, the majority of the people are, and these are our firefighters, the majority of that group is asking us, why are we building a fire station that we can't manage, and we can't even fill our needs here, staffing and so on and so forth, and now we're going to build another place and where that's going to bring us, right? So you think about, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong? I say we got to look at what are we doing right, and how do we take care of what we have today, opposed to building and creating a bigger hole in the future. It goes back to, I know it's not capital, there's capital about the building, but it's not capital about running the cost of having an additional firehouse that happens to be, I would say, I sat on the council when we built the library, and sometimes I think that was a little bit too big. I think this might be the same way. We have a fire group that's wondering why we're going down that path as well, and this would be some of their new homes. So they're questioning. I hope we're questioning the same thing, and I hope we turn around and think about what we can do. And again, I threw an option, and I'd love to see you guys quote a couple different fire stations. You got Bell, you got Lifestar, a couple of them. What would they do to come in here and to run a 24-hour EMS service that we would have to, and what is their program, and what would they offer?
Thanks, Joe. Wayne?
That was more than 3 minutes, Joe.
We don't have 3 minutes on this one. We don't have 3
Steve, I
minutes.
got a what-if question. When this discussion hits the newspaper, or Washington County Insider, West Bend News, whatever, first thing the taxpayers are going to say, what about my taxes? You guys are proposing a referendum. Everybody's taxes went up this year. So what if we do propose this referendum? What if by some chance it would pass? What kind of numbers how much are you going to increase the levy? How is it going to affect the average taxpayer?
We're not prepared to talk about numbers tonight.
It's too early for that.
Absolutely. I mean, if you
30
listen
days.
to Joe, it was already taken care of, so.
Okay. So we can't answer that question.
Jeff?
So Steve, hypothetically, right? Levy limit increase means increase in taxes, right? Okay, so hypothetically, right, levy limit increase means increase in taxes. What that number is, we don't know, right? Correct? And then my question is borrowing effect as well, right? The firehouse came up, other buildings come up, right? So we're gonna ask for more borrowing this year than we have before, right? We have a certain level that we borrow at. We're gonna go to a different level because we're gonna do other things. So when you borrow more money, that means higher taxes as well. Correct?
To pay for your debt, yes.
Yeah, to pay for your debt, you gotta pay for higher taxes. So the effect for FY '27 could be twofold. Right, we're gonna borrow more, therefore, more money, right, from the taxpayer, and also potential levy limit increase. So you might get hit, we might get twice on this. To what the number or the extent is, we don't know, but it could be twice. With the increased borrowing and a potential levy limit increase. I'm like, is a hypothetical, is that correct in my assumption?
But the debt service would be built into the levy.
Debt service is not restricted under levy limits.
It's not restricted. Okay.
That's what Jeff is trying to say.
That's what I'm trying to say, so it could be, right, it goes up.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dean, go ahead.
You know, last year we did our wish lists when we put together the budgets. But what we need to do as a council is to sit down and critically look at every proposed project and its corresponding funding source for the balance of this year, and then determine if we really need these projects or if they can be deferred or canceled. I don't know when we can put something together to sit down and take a look at the proposed projects for the year, but I think it's something that we have to do.
Can I ask a question of clarification?
Sure.
Are you talking about capital projects
Yes.
that you already borrowed for?
It's on paper, we have not borrowed for it yet. And we haven't looked at final plans for a fire station
Correct.
or the, well, we haven't seen the plans, we haven't seen the general contractor, and I don't think you've got votes here to get a new fire station.
Okay.
Justin?
Just to clarify a few things, we're not talking about the fire station. This is operational expenses. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, to be clear, some operational costs are a part of the
Yes.
of occupying the firehouse, but it's not nearly, it's maybe 5-10%.
Yes, and reserving judgment on whether you have the votes here for the fire station, I would take a guess that that answer is no. But setting that aside, this seems like just a basic math problem, right? You need to have a certain amount of income and revenue to pay for a certain amount of expenses. So either you have to increase your non-tax revenue or you need to decrease your expenses. Is that basically the problem?
Correct.
And so I think to Dean's point, you proposed some things that we could do to generate revenue, like wheel taxes and charging people for parks. I hate all of those ideas. And then the other option is that we reduce the expenses that we have, our operating expenses.
Cut staff.
What?
Cut staff. Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
What's my expenses? Staff. So I'm not trying to jump on you in this situation, but let's be honest what this is. It's level of service.
Yeah, it's a math problem.
Yeah.
And so, hypothetically speaking, if we go out to referendum and we decide we go to referendum, which unclear whether people have the votes for that either, but if the public says no thanks, we're still in a situation where we have to decide what to do with that staff because we have to reduce expenses. Is that correct also?
Absolutely.
So I think what would help us as a group is the options, sort of like a menu of options, A, B, C, and D, because I think we need to reason about those options and then decide what we want to put in front of voters. And we also have to be willing to make that decision if we're willing to put it in front of voters, in my opinion. And so, at least for my benefit, like having that menu of options in front of us would be extremely helpful, and I'm sure that's probably what you're already planning to do. But also, just so everyone's clear for our vast viewing audience, a referendum is we put it out to voters and they decide whether they want to do it or not. We're not deciding whether we're raising taxes. All we are deciding as a council is whether we put something on the ballot that the public decides whether they want to pay for.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks.
That's basically because we can't.
Yes.
By state law, we can't raise taxes to
Yes.
do this.
Tina wanted to say something.
Tom?
I think we ought to be wary of the optics here, too. I mean, we just came off of a big referendum for the high school. Now we want to throw out another referendum. We don't know what the high school is going to be doing this year either. If I'm not mistaken, Evers' 400-year plan, they can raise taxes per student 400, right? for their budget stuff, for their budget obligations. So we have to, again, weigh out here, you know, we have a fiduciary to our taxpayers, and I think we have to be very cautious on how we move forward here and what we can do and can't do. Plus, we have some capitals coming up too. I'm not going to bring that up yet, but those are things that we're definitely coming down the road, I think, in '28, and I think, you know, it has to do with utilities, so.
Tina?
Yeah, I just wanted to know how many TIF districts are out there that are not contributing to the tax base?
Active TIF districts currently, I believe it's 6. Don't quote me, but I believe it's 6. We just closed 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 6. You, it could be 7 with TID 13, 6 or 7.
Okay.
Jeff?
So I just want to say, so I had a whole sheet of questions, but I want to thank my fellow council members and thank you, Steve. Most of them were answered as we worked our way through this discussion, but probably the two that might still be on the table, and one's a reiteration of Alderperson Webb's, and I think already on your agenda, is to understand those list of actions if we can't go to if we decide not to go to referendum, or we go to referendum and it fails, understanding what are those service cuts. Again, I think that's probably already on your radar, but I think it's incumbent on us to understand what those actions would be before we'd even go to the taxpayers. And then the second piece, when we talk about other municipalities and comparables, I know you threw a few stats in your presentation. I would just ask, maybe to narrow that as to, what you had probably all Wisconsin municipalities that you pulled in there. I would ask us to narrow that to what are real comparables? Is it cities, population 10,000 to 25,000, or I'll let you determine.
I wouldn't know that. It's not, the detail comes out from the Taxpayers Alliance. I don't think they break it down by the size of city.
Okay. Because I know, and for my other council members, for what it's worth, the Department of Revenue does publish budget information by municipality, by village, by town, by county. And so I was able to pull that data right off the Department of Revenue. So I think there are some comparables, to your point, Steve, maybe not exactly on who's going to referendum, but there's certainly some comparables. But again, they list all municipalities, so I'd be curious at some point on your opinion as what's a comparable to us versus every municipality in the state. Yeah, right.
For size.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's last question or point. Is there any reason? So you talked about May probably being our deadline to decide if we were going in August. Any reason why the August election, if any, or could it be any election cycle?
Because if it has to go to an election, and it has to, if it fails, we want to know that during budget season, if we have to make $1.5 million in cuts, we still have time to do so before you're passing a budget.
So August is a key.
If you do it in November, it's too late.
Too late, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So August does not bring enough traffic, so why wouldn't we do that in a November election? Where there's more
Again,
traffic?
it's too late. We're already got budget passed.
By November.
You literally are going to, the same night that the election is, you'd be passing your budget.
Joe?
So we sat down back prior to the, and we talked about it when we did our budget session last year, or this past year, and talked about we're going to be faced. So you gave us the inclination it was coming this direction. I guess I would say that you guys want to go to this August thing and we wait till November. My question was, we knew we were in this position before that. Why didn't we go in this past November when we do have the numbers coming in, or have it come into, bring it into this election period in April, where now we'll have our numbers? Why push it to August? We knew, Steve, we were in this position back in September. We could have been prepared, and we should have had it in the April election where everybody's going, opposed to August where people are all on vacation and probably not doing election. So once again, I'll just say once again, and we knew about it. We said something about it, and here we are now pushing it when we feel it's going to be the best benefit to the drive to get the answer we're looking for, opposed to a bigger selection. I just think that timing is poor. We knew about it, and we should have done it earlier.
Anyone else?
I mean,
Justin, go ahead.
I don't think we're intentionally delaying this, right? Like, we made a decision to use certain amount of money out of the fund balance to address things at the end of last year, if I remember correctly. And that's why we're in this time period now. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay.
The other concept that the mayor and I were talking about was the fact of we're doing a reval as we speak. So based on your tax bill that came out last December, showed that your equalized value to assessed value is about 12% off. So if we're going to reval and you go to 100%, that means your mill rate would go down about 12%. So if that is the time in which it was the mayor and I thinking that this would be the best time for us to go to referendum if we're going to do so.
Bad choice.
Obviously, a difficult situation. One I was not excited about addressing either. However, here we are. And I think we had a lot of good suggestions tonight, start, other places to look and things like that. I think, like I was telling Steve too, it's like, and he mentioned it, everything's on the table because, yeah, it's a big number. So I think we're going to keep hammering on it. I think that's the thing. But you said you're going to bring the actual numbers to us, what, about a month, you said?
Yeah. I mean, the concept was if we're going to go to referendum, we would we have to present by the June 1st to get to the county to put in there, because you need 70 days before the election to get it to the county by state statutes. So we would have to decide on that by the end of May.
Yeah. So again, go ahead.
No, getting back to Justin's math equation, right? Just to end on this note, right? I'm an old ex-accountant. I did auditing too, right? So I'm not going to blame an auditor. Auditor does, right? That's not the point. But the second point is that if we do go to referendum or don't go to referendum, I'd like to see a list of what the proposed cuts by staff would be if we didn't go to referendum.
I'm sorry?
I want to know from staff, from your team, Steve, what non-essential services we can cut and not have to go to referendum
Or outsource.
or outsource or whatever. I'd like to see that before we even would consider going to referendum or not. That wasn't that was kind of requested by some of us. I'm demanding it as a request.
I
want to know what we have to cut so we don't have to go to referendum.
Just an additional comment to what you said. I mean, you said non-essential services. I think you're gonna be hitting essential services.
Could be, but I want to know, you gotta
That's
go from the
fine,
bottom
but-
up,
yeah.
right? And go, to get to the magic number, what get cut, what's proposed to get cut first?
I just think a
second,
lot
third,
of
fourth?
people have this idea in their head that government has a lot of non-essential things. We don't have a lot of non-essential things, so.
Yeah, well, I want to, well, if there's one, I'd like to see the dollar value of one,
There you go.
if that's it, and just move up the food chain then.
Yeah, I think like, one of the things that goes into my personal calculus about whether we go out to referendum or not is, to Jeff's point, like, what are those things that we would have to cut? And then honestly, like, do I feel more comfortable sending things out to a voter to make that decision? Or do I want to deal with them coming to me and complaining about all the things we just cut when they could have gone and approved an increase, a slight increase in taxes to keep those services? And I do believe the voters are capable of making that decision. And so I think, like, if I hear everything here, it's like we want to be as informed as possible in making this decision about whether to go to referendum. And at least personally, I'm reserving judgment on whether we go out to referendum or not until I get to see that information.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. So I think, like I said, we got some work to do in front of us, but probably a good place to end for tonight. So last item on the agenda is adjournment. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
A motion by Alderperson Savage, second by Alderperson Curley.
Motion by Alderperson Savage, seconded by Alderperson Curley to adjourn at 8:40 PM.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye, for sure.
Opposed? We are adjourned.